mynews.studio.
At COP28, nearly 200 countries pledged to quit fossil fuels. So what does it actually mean when the world agrees to move on from its own energy era?
Today is August 30th, 2025. Let's get right into it. For the first time ever, nearly every country on the planet has formally agreed to transition away from fossil fuels. This happened at COP28 in Dubai, right?
Right. And this wasn't just another emissions target. The agreement actually calls out fossil fuels directly as the main cause of climate change and aims for net zero emissions by 2050. That's a big step. But what makes this stand apart from earlier climate deals?
Before, agreements like Paris in 2015 set emissions targets, but they didn't actually mention fossil fuels by name. Now, the message is oil, gas, and coal need to stay in the ground. The timing matters too. 2023 was the hottest year ever recorded, and all those extreme weather events really forced climate action to the top of the agenda.
And the agreement goes beyond broad statements. Countries are committing to triple global renewable energy capacity and double energy efficiency by 2030. So it's not just about building more solar and wind farms.
Wait, when you say double efficiency, are we talking about things like better building codes and more efficient appliances? Or is it more about upgrading power grids?
Both, actually. It covers improvements across the board: stricter building codes, more efficient appliances, even things like smart grids. It's a lot to tackle.
That's a massive task, especially for countries that are still building up their infrastructure. Did the agreement touch on how these countries would get support?
Yes, that's a central part of the deal. There's this new loss and damage fund, over $700 million pledged so far, to help countries hit hardest by climate change. But there are still big questions. Is that funding enough? And will it actually reach the people who need it?
And what about enforcement? Since the agreement isn't legally binding, what actually makes countries follow through?
Right. There are no legal penalties, but political and market pressures are growing. Investors and the public are watching. Plus, every country is supposed to update its national climate plan by 2025 with concrete actions, like ending inefficient fossil fuel subsidies, speeding up the phase down of coal, and investing in renewables, nuclear, and carbon capture.
Carbon capture comes up a lot. Did the agreement spell out how much countries can rely on it? Or is the focus still mainly on actually reducing fossil fuel use?
That part's open to interpretation. The text allows room for carbon capture, but the main emphasis is on cutting fossil fuel consumption. Big producers will need to show real reductions, not just offset emissions.
Is there a chance some countries, especially those whose economies depend on oil and gas, might drag their feet on these commitments?
Absolutely. Implementation will look different everywhere. Some countries will move fast, especially those with strong renewable resources or public support. Others might move more slowly, particularly if their economies are tied to fossil fuels. That's why the agreement talks about a just, orderly, and equitable transition. Developed countries are expected to take the lead and offer financial and technical support.
It's a global issue, but it hits home in local ways. What happens to jobs in fossil fuel industries? How will energy prices shift? And is it possible to pull off such a huge transition without leaving people behind?
Those are the core challenges. The world has set a direction, but the real test is in the details: how countries, companies, and communities make changes on the ground. Will this agreement turn out to be the pivot point in climate history, or just another high-profile promise?
That's what we'll be watching, because the stakes are about health, security, and the future for billions.
Thanks for joining us as we broke down the world's first unified pledge to move away from fossil fuels. From the negotiations at COP28 to the next steps for each country, this story is only beginning.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. You can try it now for free.